This is a long time ago. Do not ever think, okay, especially you liberal types, don't ever think that I went to university, I'm on the same par. No, 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 no. Believe me when I tell you, anyone that goes to university in this time, 20th century, 21st century, doesn't have a clue. Does not have a clue about what was being taught in the university systems back in those times. It was a different animal, a completely different set of ideas and how to look at life and how to think about things. That's what it was. Anyway, so back to our story. Now, because we're moving into the time period that is a little more near and dear to our hearts, we can start looking at more of the influence of these things because, like I said earlier, this is actually leading us somewhere. We're going to see something incredibly important that addresses how we think, and that looks at paradigms, and that looks at those words there. And this is the time, I don't know if it's going to be in this one or the next one, but we're going to take out the picture again and look at the lenses, and I'm going to apply the lenses and show you what I was thinking when I drafted up that picture on Photoshop. Anyway, so even though we're still in the empire phase, because we're actually still in that phase today, we're moving into different times. Now, in this time frame we're talking about at this moment, right now, the Enlightenment period has already taken effect. It has already spread. That brings us into the new period. This is the colonial period. Now, I'm looking at that from the American perspective, okay? The European perspective, they might have called it something different, but I'm calling it the colonial period when these powerful groups, these powerful nations, Portugal, France, Britain, blah, 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 whatever, different places around the world, China, I mean, they were colonializing. They were creating colonies and saying, okay, well, we're staking this property now because we need more resources. Yeah, we gotta control more. It's all ours, it's all ours, it's all ours. But we're looking at this period now. Because of the Enlightenment period, because of the brilliant education of those people, and because they were enlightened, which is a lot different than being educated. And I want you to go back to, let me throw this reference at you because we talked about it in the 4 components. Don't forget, okay, when you're living on Earth, you're not just thinking, you're using instinct, okay? Instinct is a huge, massive, very serious part of humans being on this planet. Always has been, always will be. I don't care what the brainwashing has fed you. The brainwashing is just institutionalized, here, think like this. But a lot of it is nonsense. When you hear the raw truth, it will resonate in your soul. Just remember that. It's incredibly important. But enlightenment and education is not the same thing. Okay? You're going to be using instinct in enlightenment. Very big time. You may or may not be using instinct in education. Both of them are incredibly important, by the way. And both of them came into play at this time frame that we're talking about right now, which is the colonial period. This is the period when we had places like America, which is a colony of some different places, Spain, Britain, Portugal, I mean the colonial place before the revolution, before the Constitution, before all that stuff. So we're going to look at that period, we're going to look at it real fast, but I want to show you something about the indoctrinations of the period. And I want you to look at the indoctrinations of those periods, because this period, like I said, is much more near and dear to our heart, because we can actually, this is so close to us, it's only a few hundred years away. And we can see because we're getting so close to our time now in this storyline. We can see, oh yeah, you know what? The present is sort of piled on top of the past, and the past kind of like shifts us, and it's sort of like the foundation of the present, huh? Yes, very much so. So whatever paradigms were going in this colonial period, they were coming from earlier times. And you know, the earlier times you had the conquering groups who became the ruling class with all of their paradigms. Here's how we raise up a slave. Here's how we raise up those that are under us, those that are beneath us, those that are just, you know, we need to run their lives, and they need to capitulate. And if they don't capitulate, it's a problem. So let's solve the problem. That sort of thing. If you're just jumping on this now, I'm gonna urge you to go back to the beginning and listen to this from the beginning, because there is a part one. Okay. So in the colonial period, the fostering of all of this Enlightenment period had pretty much spread out and done a fantastic job. That's going to lead us into the Revolution period. That's why we need to look at this. Also, we need to go back a little bit, and I'm just going to throw this in there and drop it in your lap, because we really are going to come back to this, because we have to see something that is so profound to our future that it's literally mind-blowing. And it's sort of couched in religion. So we are going to come back in time after we lay down more of the story and look hard at that. That's when we're going to pull out our lenses. And we're going to talk about the lenses. And we're going to see some things that really are critical. When I say critical, I mean incredibly critical to this time coming up, this next several years here, coming up in our future. Okay? So, that's what we're going to do. So, with all that stuff out of the way, let's look at these institutions of this point in time. Now, back in the days of the colonial period, of course, the kings were ruling, and they came from the monarch period, they came from the feudal period. They were at a pinnacle. That's why they were out colonizing, because they were at a pinnacle of power, wealth, money, and all that stuff. But the reason they got to that pinnacle of power, wealth, money, and all that stuff is because of the institutions that they were enforcing, is because of the things they were getting the populations to think. In other words, we the people of, you know, across the globe. Seriously, especially in the colonial period. When I say across the globe, I literally mean across the globe. And just like now in 2016, it is literally the whole planet, okay? We the people is the populations of the whole planet. I just want to keep reinforcing that. I'm going to do it again and again and again and again, because this really must sink into your mind. But those institutions that were set up for the benefit of the ruling class. Any kind of education you were getting, if you were not the elite or the members of the ruling class. Now, we're not talking about the university system at this point. The university system at this point is literally for the ruling class. We're talking about the education system around the planet. In these monarchs, and how they're getting their people to think. Britain, Portugal, all of these groups that were colonizing, because they really were the power of the day. Anyway, their institutions were set up with that purpose in mind. That's how they were set up. And as you well know, as anybody on earth alive today can attest to, hey, when you're raised on one thing, It's just like when we look at the media today. Well, I'm in my 50s. I'm in my late 50s, as a matter of fact. Sad but true. I don't like it, but hey, this is the way it is. When I look back at the times of, say, Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is, and I compare that to what's being fed to me in network news today, I'm just mind blown. I'm just like, what are you? Oh my God, this is psychotic. This is just force feeding me a bunch of rubbish. That's all this is doing. And I see that, and I look behind it, and of course, I think a different way than most people think, and I don't need to apologize for it, but I'm laying it out here how I think in this storyline. This is the way I think. But we see that institutions are devised, and in this case I'm talking about the media, which is an institution. Education system is an institution. The AMA is an institution. As a matter of fact, all of these things that are here with us today are institutions. Well, they're all built on something, just like the ruling monarchies of this period we're now talking about right now were built on the feudal system of Europe. They're all built on something else, and then they become institutions, and they cover the whole gamut. And when we get into the religious institutions, we're going to go back to the past, and I've got to blow something up for you. And I'm using photographic language to blow something up from a little tiny picture to a big giant picture, so that we can look at the details of what's going on in the picture, because everybody's missing this. Anyway, so when we look at these institutions, we have to realize, hey, these institutions are built on some foundation of the past. It didn't just pop out of the clear blue and they're just one day go, we're going to do this and do that. No. This goes back to the beginning, when you had the conquering groups and then everybody else. And then eventually life on Earth became that, okay? You had the groups that would turn you into a slave, and they were the conquering, ruling empires. Empire. They were the empires. And it goes all the way up to today. Same thing today. Now, when we get to the period of about 1900, late 1800s, we're going to look a little closer. But now, at this time, that's going to be much more near and dear to our hearts. There's even movies from this time. So this is going to be way near and dear to our hearts. So we're going to be able to look at it with a little bit more tangibility as to, yeah, I can relate to that, because look I'm watching the movie. Yes. Anyway, hopefully by the time we get to the point of we're going to blow up some of these things, of course we will have already told this story by then rather, it will really make a mark, and we will understand much better where exactly we really are and why things are the way they are, and who is behind all of these institutions and who sets them up and why they're set up this way. Because we don't really understand that. We don't see it. I mean, some people see it and they're just like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now I see, now what do I do now? No, but you don't really see. You don't really see. You just think you see, but you don't really see. Hopefully this will clear it up. That's what our lenses are for. Our lenses are going to be so that we can look into things. Those are some high-powered lenses there. Some of them are electronic. Some of them are telescopes looking out into the cosmos. People. Those lenses are for really clear seeing. And isn't it nice that if you're going somewhere and you know where you want to go, that you can see clearly? Because, seeing clearly is all part of navigating your life. Navigating your life. I would really say that loud. It would blow out the blow out my sound system, and then it would crackle and everything sound horrible. Oh my God! Run for your lives. But really, it really is navigating your life is so crucial. That's why these institutions have been set up to make it so you do not navigate your life. That's why the populations are running around in this sort of madness. Now, when we go back in time, we're going to look at this really super important point. That's when I'm going to take you into religion, because that was also an institution. It wasn't supposed to be an institution, but it became an institution, and the Reformation did not knock it out. The Reformation actually borrowed a lot of it, even though the Reformation was a great thing. Don't get me wrong here. Don't get me wrong at all. It was a great thing. I'm glad that happened. We should all thank God, whatever God really is. We should all thank God that the Reformation happened, the Reformation period. However, don't think that the Reformation period was like, okay, well, that took care of that. No, that didn't take care of that. The institutions are still in play to this very day. And we're still hearing gibberish to this very day. So don't think that. Now, back to the story. So, we're in the colonial period. Everybody's colonizing. Basically, they're spreading this idea and spreading these institutions, spreading them out everywhere across the globe. That's the point I want to make with the colonial period. When we look at the next period, that's when we're going to start getting into the lenses thing. So,